What if the curse that transformed Prince Adam didn't end with the finding of his true love? After he changed back, what if Belle became the beast? This is FanScription. Now this is one I've had on my mind for quite a while. I think I first thought it up a few years ago and it's been rolling around up there since. In the spirit of our What If Ariel Was a Siren and What If Jafar Won Disney Elseworlds videos, we're going to take a similar approach to the 1991 classic Beauty and the Beast. The animated film is still a worthwhile rewatch all these years later, and is one of the most popular movies from the Disney Renaissance era. It changed the game in many ways and was famously nominated for Best Picture at the 1992 Academy Awards. Its fairy tale adaptation has stood the test of time. Its songs are still as catchy as ever, and its characters are iconic. But what if Prince Adam's return to normal was only the beginning of a bigger story? What if the Enchantress's curse instead passed to Belle? Let's continue to follow this romantic pair to see if their true love really can conquer all. As I did with our Aladdin video, I'm going to split Beauty and the Beast into two films. The first plays out with little difference to the original. When we get to the end, seeing the Beast's appearance revert to that of Prince Adam, he embraces Belle and the pair share the kiss of true love that freed him of his curse. Or did it? As their lips part, Belle starts to feel faint and is soon enveloped in the same throes of magic that Adam was. Blinding light goes forth from her fingertips as she falls to the ground. Adam and some of the newly humanized residents of the castle step forward to check on her, but when they get close, she bursts forward from under her cloak. To everyone's horror, Belle has transformed into a female version of the Beast. To be continued. Part 2 opens on Prince Adam straining to carry a knocked-out Belle through the large doors of the library. He's desperate for help and calls out for assistance. Belle is placed on the couch in front of the fireplace as the prince digs through a certain section of books, searching for anything on magic. Lumiere, Cogsworth, Mrs. Potts, and Chip delicately enter the room and look with pity upon Adam and the beastly Belle. We see the prince become nearly hysterical. He drops from his feet with dozens of literature volumes surrounding him on the floor, blaming himself for this horrid turn of events. He wishes he never fell in love. While everyone in the castle would have remained cursed, at least it wouldn't have passed to another innocent victim. Mrs. Potts steps forward to gently caress the unconscious Belle. It's not just Adam, but the whole castle who have come to sincerely love her as one of their own. Potts' eyebrows furrow as a fierce expression of motherly protection enters her demeanor. She exclaims to Adam that they're going to take matters into their own hands this time. There's a history book in the library that speaks of a magic wielder who may be strong enough to break the curse once and for all. They always kept it away from the prince because it contained arcane incantations that may have made their situation much worse. However, with no other option, she decides now is the time to take a chance. Potts points Adam to the volume, which is at the very top of the massive library. The prince scales a ladder, dozens and dozens of feet into the air, and pulls out the book. It's a history record of sorts that tells of a powerful sorceress that was once active on the other side of the country. Everyone acknowledges it's a long shot and a dangerous mission to undertake, but Belle is more than worth it. The female beast soon awakens to the news and is shocked at her appearance. Composing herself, she suggests that staying put may be for the best. Adam still loves Belle, and she doesn't want anyone hurt because of her. She considers a quiet life in the castle, free of prying eyes, continuing on with the people she's come to call family. But Adam and the castle's residents can't reconcile with what they've done and blame themselves for unknowingly putting her into this position. Feeling the palpable guilt of her friends, Belle agrees to the plan. Adam will be joined by Lumiere and the new beast. They'll set out at dawn to find this sorceress and permanently counteract the curse. Mrs. Potts and Cogsworth are sent into town to inform Maurice of the situation. In this version, he was urged to stay home while Belle went to the castle in the final act of Part 1. That night, we see a bruised, drunken LeFou wandering through the streets of the village. He's heavily grieving the loss of Gaston and poorly murmuring the tune of his dead friend's song in between sips from a bottle. Passing near Maurice's house, he spots a pair of suspicious, unfamiliar individuals enter the home. He stumbles up to the window and listens in. LeFou is able to hear the whole plan and seems inspired with a wicked idea. The following morning, our heroes set out on a trio of horses, Belle's furry face covered by a thick velvet cloak. As they begin their journey, bloodshot eyes follow them from the thick of the woods. A small steed steps forward into the tree branch shadows, showing LeFou take another gulp of spirits. On the first evening of their travels, the trio set up camp along the road, where Lumiere starts up a fire and more details about their mission are shared. They're heading to a castle on the outskirts of the largest city in the country. The book they have reads that more information concerning the sorceress may be found there. A rustle is suddenly heard in the saddlebags. The noise startles the trio, and this is the first time we see Belle show her sharp new teeth in aggression. Adam cautiously opens the bag to uncover Chip. He says it was too stuffy in there to remain any longer. Everyone is surprised and upset with the stowaway, but the boy is adamant that he come along to protect Belle. Already a day's journey away from Adam's castle, it's too late to bring him home, so Lumiere, Belle, and the prince reluctantly let him join the mission. He's told he must listen to their instructions at every turn, which Chip enthusiastically agrees to. Traversing the path to their destination is found to be more difficult than anticipated. The four characters run into bandits, nosy travelers, and bitter cold. Belle showcases her recently attained brawn by scaring off criminals and protecting the group from wild predators. A few territorial guards they meet on the road condemn Belle as a monster and demon when requiring to see her face. This results in at least one altercation where Adam and Belle have to physically subdue them. On the cold nights, Chip snuggles up to Belle, who's more than willing to keep the boy warm in her fur. Adam sees this and is pleasantly reminded of his love for her. As the team gets closer to the castle, we see a white dove occasionally watch from a towering tree branch. The last time we see it, the eyes seem to reflect a bright green for a fleeting moment. During the expedition, Belle actually begins to grow somewhat fond of her new form. After all, she spent her whole life wishing to experience adventures like the characters in the books she read. Now she's a part of one of those stories, and not as a helpless love interest. For the first time, she has physical power. No one is distracted by her beauty or judging her for her intelligence. This could be a life she could get used to. But she also recognizes the horror of it. No more walks through town. No more visiting her father on sun-kissed early mornings. Belle remembers how the entire village nearly destroyed the original beast. Adam loves her now, but if she were to stay a monster, would he continue to? These conflicting thoughts run through her head, sometimes coming out in conversations with Chip and Lumiere. After nearly an entire week on the road, fighting their way forward in some cases, the group sees a castle in the distance. It's a recognizable shape, and clearly once a palace of great magnificence. It's not exactly a broken-down disaster in its current form, but it certainly has seen better days. Our characters approach the gates as Belle is told to make herself scarce in case she startles the guards. Adam attempts to convince the attendants of having an audience with the king. Queen, he's corrected by the stern guards. He explains that they've been on a long journey and that he himself is royalty. It takes some persuasion, but Adam shows off his smoother side and is allowed in, but him only. Lumiere and Chip respectfully retreat back on the bridge and trot over to wait with the hiding Belle as Adam enters. Inside, he meets the young queen, who finds him very attractive and charming. Queen Rose is a single ruler over an area that has seen a decline in the last few generations. She tells Adam of her family's once proud history and that through famine and war, her kingdom has weakened. She is the only one left in the royal line. Rose is excited to have a visitor the caliber of Adam, as she quickly shows off some of her quirks, such as her fondness of old stories of magic that the history of the land is filled with. The prince is pleased to hear this and explains his predicament, but when he mentions who he's searching for, the queen becomes upset. The individual he's speaking of is just a legend from centuries ago. After some pleading and further explaining on Adam's part, Rose demands to see the supposed beast he speaks of. We have a scene outside the gates where Adam introduces the queen to Belle. She's frightened at first, but fascinated in an almost fanatical way. This proves that magic does exist in the world, a fact her parents and caretakers always deterred her from as a child. Instantly, she invites everyone inside, where she gives the group all the information she has on the sorceress. She points them in the direction of nearby mountains and urges them to exercise caution. If the magic wielder is indeed real, or still alive somehow, they must be careful of deception. Later, Rose calls them back as they leave across the bridge and runs out a sword to Adam. She said it's been in her family for years, but if the legends are true, it's something she knows they'll need. She kisses the prince on the cheek while making eye contact with Belle, which perturbs the beast a bit. With that, they make their way to the mountains. They find it's a challenging climb, and the higher they go, the more treacherous the terrain becomes. Over one of the large overhanging cliffs, they're able to see the remnants of a dark castle, standing stubborn against the ravages of time. The wind gets stronger as they step closer, and after a few slips and trips, they make it inside. It's quiet as Adam calls for someone, first politely, then in a yell. After a few seconds of no answer, Belle roars loudly. Her monstrous scream echoes throughout the abandoned great halls. Soon enough, a faint cry is heard. The group exchange puzzled looks, and armed with torches, they follow the sound. Eventually, they open the throne room to see a woman crying on the decrepit seat in shadow. She stops suddenly when she notices them. Warily, Adam asks if she's the sorceress from the old local stories. She cryptically responds, "It depends on what stories they're talking about." The figure steps into the light, and Adam drops his torch. Before him stands the Enchantress, the very being who cursed him all those years ago. She seems much more haggard and older somehow, like she's lost her vibrancy, but there's no doubt it's the same person. The prince is shocked and can't speak. The white dove seen earlier flies in and perches itself on her shoulder. The Enchantress seems to recognize Adam after a moment and is pleased to see he found true love in his heart, returning to his human form. The lesson must have worked. But when she spots Belle, another beast, her demeanor completely changes. The Enchantress starts speaking in frustration and anger about how she must have affected the spell. She's been getting stronger lately. Confused by this development, Adam reprimands her. As he explains, we get a flashback to the night that changed everything. Adam had just lost his parents and was only a boy when the old woman showed up at the castle. He was in pain, lonely, and grieving. It's the side of the story nobody seems to mention, he says. The Enchantress punished a child and dozens of other people for the boy holding fresh sorrow and agony in his heart. Adam musters up his courage with a sense of justice, demanding that the Enchantress undo the curse and restore Belle. Upon hearing this, the Enchantress manically tries to defend herself. She says that wasn't her intention, that she must have confused her. It was a cruel trick, a misunderstanding. She's become too strong. It's happening again. She can't be held back anymore. The Enchantress apologizes and drops to her knees, weeping into her hands. The cries slowly mutate into sobbing that sounds strangely like laughter. The laughter gets louder, takes over. An evil guffaw bounces off the walls as wind slowly blows through the space. As if rupturing through false skin, a gray hue tears itself out of the Enchantress's body. The wind gusts and a bright green light surrounds her. When it dims, a figure clad in black, with horns adorning her head, becomes visible. The dove lands back on her shoulder before violently shaking off its white feathers to reveal more underneath, as dark as the night. The raven lets out a deep croak. With demonic glee, the being introduces herself as Maleficent. Hundreds of years ago, she was defeated by a foolish prince and 3 fairies, ending her conquest of the nearby kingdom and control over its princess. She was beaten by the Sword of Truth, a blade that was supposed to kill her, but instead, it transformed her into pure good, the Enchantress. For centuries, she went out performing good acts and teaching misguided souls lessons. But a generation or so ago, darkness began to rise in her once again. The Enchantress had almost started to take joy in the punishments she doled out. From then on, every curse or spell she cast weakened the good inside and strengthened the evil. Maleficent could feel herself gaining power and could even affect some of the spells, influencing the Enchantress. The spell she cast on Adam was the one that put her over. Maleficent also admits that cursing any fool who actually fell in love with a beast was one of her favorite schemes. Even if Adam won and beat the spell, he still lost. The facade of good had been irrevocably breached as the Enchantress returned to the Forbidden Mountains, the only place that felt like home, although she couldn't tell why. Now, seeing the evil she's wrought, the Enchantress is gone forever. Only Maleficent remains, her former and true persona. She admits she's not quite at full power yet, but she's close. It won't be long before the evil one will be powerful enough to reap revenge and destroy her old adversary's kingdom. She just needs a few loyal subjects to help get her there. Dismissing Adam, she approaches Belle with an opportunity. She can feel that the beast likes the power her current form gives her. Join the witch as the leader of her new army, and she'll grant her anything she wishes. Belle is surprised by the offer, and fighting a small, selfish voice inside, she refuses. Just then, a voice is heard from the throne room entrance, saying he can fill that role. We cut to an exhausted and sickly-looking LeFou. He's made it up the mountain after following our hero since the beginning. Shocked, Adam and Belle try to attack the drunkard, but they're blown back by Maleficent's magic. Her eyes glow green fire as she asks for his price. LeFou whispers it into her ear, and with a chuckling reply, she casts a spell that transforms LeFou into one of her pig minions from Sleeping Beauty. "Wish granted," she exclaims. From under the throne room floor, a hand breaks through the stone. Horrified, the characters see that it's a decaying, undead Gaston. LeFou seems upset by this and yells about how that's not fair. He wanted his old friend back like before. Maleficent only says, "Deal's a deal," and sicks her new pet on the little pig. Gaston knocks LeFou so hard that he flies through an open window and down the mountain. Maleficent is pleased to say that she thinks she likes this one better. Belle attacks Gaston, rushing him from the side. The sorceress responds she wants this to be a fair fight, and transforms the resurrected Gaston into an undead gray beast. Belle and Gaston battle as Adam tries to direct Lumiere to take Chip and run for it, but Maleficent takes the boy and places him in a conjured black cage, sarcastically declaring she's always wanted a son. Adam unsheathes the blade Queen Rose gave him as the witch recoils, recognizing it as the Sword of Truth. Now outside, Belle and Gaston fight to a near stalemate, with the undead beast remarking that they're still meant for each other. He's the only one who can understand her now, the only one who could truly love her in her repulsive new form. Even if she and her friends make it out alive, how long will the prince tolerate having a repugnant creature for a true love? This infuriates Belle, whose rage strengthens her efforts. She brutalizes Gaston until he crumples to the floor, motionless. Lifting him above her head, she darkly jests that she hopes this works this time and tosses him off the mountain into the gray clouds below. Prince Adam has gained an advantage over the terrified sorceress, who does her best to evade the blade. Pulling an old trick out of her arsenal, Maleficent transforms into the dragon from Sleeping Beauty, but with her power still diminished, she can only grow to about the height of the throne room. Adam dodges her tail whips, but is barely hanging on after he's stabbed in the side with her claw. He drops. It looks like the end. until Lumiere jumps on the dragon's back and tries to tear one of its wings. The witch flings Lumiere into the wall, and he hits the ground hard. While distracted, the prince slices at the dragon's leg, the wound glowing white as a roar of pain nearly deafens Adam. After a moment, she glares over at Chip, knowing killing him will cause the prince unimaginable pain, thus gaining her more dark power. She inhales as Chip covers up in his cage. Adam somehow gathers himself enough to jump in the way of the green flames. He deflects some of it with the sword, but disappears into the emerald fire. Belle then surges forth, back from outside. She kicks Maleficent with all her power, and the witch cracks into the stone wall, falling to the ground. She then transforms back into her normal state. While she recovers, Belle picks up the sword that was dropped nearby and lifts it over her head. Maleficent defiantly says that she'll be back. There's no way a beast can stop the powers of hell. Belle says she's going to personally make sure the sorceress won't return this time. And in shadow, Maleficent is beheaded. Belle notices her injured friends and sees Adam not moving on the ground. She approaches him with dread as Lumiere and Chip join her, his cage dissipated after Maleficent's defeat. The prince is only singed from the fire, but his stab wound has bled out. As soon as we see his face, we know he didn't make it. Belle holds him in her arms, crying. As the tears fall from her face, the appearance of the beast also falls away. Belle is slowly changed back to her human form. With Adam dead, the curse is broken. Somberly, they travel back to their village, where they lay the prince to rest. We see Belle embrace her father and her friends at the castle. Sometime later, the woman is shown placing a tied burlap sack inside a small compartment of the castle's dungeon. Upstairs, she catches herself looking at a portrait of the prince, and those old feelings of love well up inside her. In shadow, we see her take the shape of the beast once again. While Adam is dead, the love they shared still exists, and in moments of intense mourning, Belle finds herself changed back to the form they both inhabited. After the credits, Belle is reading alone in the library when Lumiere and Cogsworth enter. They say an urgent message came from the kingdom outside the Forbidden Mountains. Queen Rose is asking for Belle's help. A new enemy has reached their land. And there you have it. What if Belle became the Beast? What did you guys think? Make sure you let me know in the comments along with any suggestions for future fanscriptions. Until next time, remember, every enchanted rose has its thorn.